Hello, this is Enes, the instructor from BB Driving School, and thanks for watching my previous video. Today, I'm here to talk about coolant and water. Yes, coolant and water. But I will throw more light on water first before I'll talk about coolant. Note, since ages, we see people pouring water into their car or into their radiator tank or the expansion tank, but we don't know how truly that act is harming our car or reducing the lifespan of the engine. So today I'm here to educate people more on why they don't have to put water into their car, but rather put coolant. But as I said the other one, I'm going to talk about water. So water is very cheap. That is why most of our forefathers or our elderly ones use water, and we're also using water because it is cheap as compared to coolant. And two, we all know that water is hydrogen plus oxygen. So with the oxygen coming in contact with our engine, with time the engine will corrode, and with time the engine will rust. So whilst you are using water into your car or into your radiator, you shorten the lifespan of your engine, but people don't know, and people prefer using water instead of coolant. Two, water contains some impurities or some minerals that when it settles down in the radiator tank or the expansion tank, it drops some silt or some salt or some particles. With that, when this particle build up inside the engine, it makes the engine corrode, and with time it will rust, and that shorten the lifespan of our engine. Note, water has the least boiling temperature. So at 100 degrees Celsius, water begins to boil. So when you use your car for a long period of time while the engine is still on, you realize that your engine or your car will overheat. Why does your car overheat? Because water, when water boil up to that degree Celsius or that 100 degrees Celsius and begin to boil, the water evaporates. Sorry, when it evaporates, the volume of the water will drop, and as the volume of the water drops, the tendency that your car will overheat is high. So it's not advisable to use water. The note, it has water has a long-term effect on your car healthy or performance. So at normal circumstances, if your engine must last for, let's say, 20 years or 15 years or 30 years, with the act of using water in the radiator tank or the expansion tank, whilst water is moving up and down, it corrode the internal combustion engine or the inside engine, and this will damage your engine, and your engine will not be able to last for that duration. So please, it's not advisable to use water. But in Ghana, what I've seen is that people even don't use distilled water. If you don't have money, or you want to go that old method by using water, please, I'll entreat you to use a distilled water. So a bottled water, or in Ghana water, their water is being treated. We consider their water is being treated. So you can use a tap water, a clean or filtered tap water. Don't go and fetch river water or any bore water which is not clean and pour it into your air tank. Please, anytime you take your car to a organizer or to a mechanic shop, and they change or they work on your engine, and they want to top up the water, tell them not to fetch any ordinary water. Some mechanics will go and fetch any water, and they will put it inside your engine. If it happens so, they are spoiling your engine. And most of the time, for you to know or see what I'm talking about, always open your radiator cap or your expansion tank. If you are using water, you realize that the water color will change and it become brownish. And even if you use your hand to pass through the cap or under the cap, or when you turn the cap, you see that the cap has the cap color has changed to very brownish or chocolate color, it means that your engine is getting damaged bit by bit. And two, those that if you've seen our commercial cars, those that they use water into radiator, you always that day in day out they keep topping up their their water level, because it evaporates, and when it evaporates the volume of the water will go down. So most of the time you realize that the commercial drivers, they keep topping up their water in the coolant tank or the radiator tank. Please note. So water is not advisable. Let me quickly go to coolant and why I encourage everyone to use coolant in their car. At the normal circumstances, we don't even pour any water in the car. So someone say that, but you pour water in the washer fluid reservoir. If in the washer fluid reservoir, we don't pour normal water. We have washer fluid that we pour into that tank also. So at normal circumstances, we don't pour any distilled water or normal water into the either the expansion tank or the tank or even the washer fluid tank. But note, the only time you can use distilled water into your car is when your car develops overheating, and as at that time you don't have any coolant available. That is when you can use water into your radiator tank or the expansion tank. But that one, even if you use water, when you go back, or yeah, you go back for them to fix that problem, you have to drain that water and the coolant mist, drain it out and refill it with coolant. So the only time you can use water is in case of an emergency, that there is no coolant available. That is when you can use water. But even that emergency, you can still solve it. If you are using a particular coolant, you can buy extra coolant and put it in your trunk or put it on your boot. When there is an emergency, you can use it. So I entreat each and everyone who drives a car to get extra coolant, either 1 liter or 2 liters or 4 liters in their car, so that when their car develops a problem, then they have to change, or they have to fill, or they have to top up the coolant. They will not use water, rather they will use coolant in their car. Quickly, let me throw more lights on coolant and why I encourage people to use coolant. So note, coolant is a fluid used in the radiator to reduce engine heat. So coolant is a fluid used in the radiator to remove the engine heat. The engine, when you spark the car and when the engine begins to work, there is something we call internal combustion. There's piston in the engine block that move up and down, when metals are moving up and down, they generate heat. So this heat, or they generate friction, will pop up. When friction pop up, heat is being produced. So the coolant is there to remove that heat that is being generated by the engine. So the purpose of the coolant is to remove engine heat. So if you don't have coolant in the engine, if you don't have coolant in the radiator tank, that purpose of the coolant cannot be achieved. So your car will get overheating. So note, coolant is a mixture of water and anti-rust or additives. So coolant is a mixture of water and either other chemicals. That chemicals can be anti-rust, or we call it additives. So coolant is a mixture of water and these additives. But these additives or this chemical, the coolant provides best protection against rust and overheating. With this anti-rust, it prevents the engine from corroding or from rusting. And with these adjectives or this chemical, it helps the coolant when it's boiled to a certain temperature, still it will condenses back, and the volume will still remains. So please, it's better for you to use a coolant, because coolant has some anti-rust agents inside that prevents the engine from rusting. And note, coolant has a very high temperature before it will boil. So the boiling temperature of coolant, some boiling temperature of coolant is, it goes up to 135 degrees Celsius before you start boiling. Some are 130, some are 125. It depends on the water content in the coolant. So note, it's advisable to use coolant. When you use coolant, it's very difficult for your level of coolant to go down, because we have some additives inside that helps the fluid inside to condenses when the temperature rises. Good. And I said they also have some anti-rust agents inside that prevents the fluid coming in contact with the metal part from rusting. Okay. Note, we have three types of coolants. We have the organic coolants, and we have the inorganic coolants, and we have the hybrid coolants. But note, in Ghana, the most coolant that we see in our market is the organic coolant. Why? Because more than 80% of our cars that we use in Ghana are the old types. But the old types cars, their engine blocks are made of cast iron, and some the heads are also cast iron. We can also have some cars that the engine block is made of cast iron, but the engine head is made of aluminium. We can also have a car which is made of aluminium. So these modern cars that they are in the market, their engines are made of aluminium, and the block is also made of aluminium, and the head is also made from aluminium. So these cars that they are very light, very these modern cars, most of their engine blocks are made from aluminium, and the head from aluminium. But in Ghana, you can see that majority of our cars are these old cars. These old cars, the engine are made with cast iron. But note, when cast iron come in contact with water, it corrode and it rust. So that is why when you open your radiator tank or your expansion tank, you see that the fluid, the water in there has become brownish. Why? Because the water coming in contact with the engine block, which is made of cast iron, has corroded, and with time it is rusting. So please, in Ghana, I entreat everyone to use coolant. But if you are using coolant, it doesn't rust. When the fluid come in contact with the metal, it doesn't rust. And we have the organic one. The inorganic ones are for cars that either the engine head is the engine block is made of cast iron, and the head is made of aluminium. You can use the inorganic one. Then the hybrid ones are the one that their engine blocks are made of aluminium. So modern cars, we use the hybrid coolant. So let me talk about the coolant that I encourage or I recommend to everyone in Ghana, especially if you are using modern car, any car which is manufactured below 2015. Most of them, their engine blocks 2015 and 10, their engine blocks are cast iron. So if you are using an old car, it's advisable to get this one. Note, most of the organic ones, they are green in color. The coolants are green in color. Then most of the inorganic one can be pink. Then the hybrid one can be yellow, can be red. But the common ones that we see in our market is the green one, because most of our cars are old cars, and their engine blocks and the head are made from cast iron. So please, for you to prolong the lifespan of your engine, it's good to use coolant. So coolant is the best. Don't use water. Then let me quickly go through the frequent questions that my students ask me when you are talking about coolant and why they should use coolant. So the frequent questions that sometimes they ask me is, how long does coolant last in your car? So how long does coolant last in your car? If you buy the car fresh, the car is new, the coolant inside can last for 10 years. So sometimes they will say that when you travel for 200,000 kilometers and above, you have to change it. By the time that you drive the car, when the mileage is 0.0000, you drive out to 200,000 kilometers. It's more than 10 years. So most of the time, after 10 years, you can change your coolant. But if you didn't buy the car new, then you bought it home use, you don't know the number of years the person used, or if the person has traveled for more than that kilometers, because in Ghana people restart their odometer. Their odometer, people can restart their odometer. Odometer means, odometer is the device that read the mileage the car has traveled. So if you didn't buy the car new, then you are not sure number of years that the person have driven that car, or you can't be sure of the mileage on the car. It's advisable to change the coolant. Why do you have to change the coolant? Because the coolant, if you don't change, the performance will go down, because the chemicals, it will definitely go down. So coolant can be changed. So if you bought a car new, the coolant inside the car can be in for 10 years. But if you didn't buy the car new, you bought it home use, or you bought it from someone, you need to change it first. When you change it, the new one that you use, that one can last for 24 months, so 2 years. You have to change the coolant again. Okay, so how long does coolant last in a car? So at least 2 years. Or if you travel for, let's say, 30,000 kilometers, you have to change the coolant. Then another question: can I put coolant in a hot car? You can't put coolant in a hot car. So even when your car gets overheating, then you want to open the radiator cap, you have to wait till the engine to calm down, or to the engine to cool down before you open. If you don't let the engine cool down, then you open the radiator cap, because uh, pressure has built under or inside the radiator cap, the coolant or the water will spill out, and it will even burn your face. So it's not advisable to open or pour coolant in an hot engine. You have to wait till when the engine temperature comes down or go down before you can open and pour your coolant inside the radiator. Okay, then the next question: can I use tap water instead of coolant? You can only use tap water in an emergency. But that emergency, you can even provide a spare coolant in your car, so that in emergency you can. But if you don't have spare, it's very wrong, or it's very dangerous to drive with an empty coolant, or with no coolant in your tank, or with no water. Your engine will spoil your engine. So if you don't have coolant, you can use tap water. But when you immediately go back, or you arrive at your destination, you have to drain it out, then refill it with coolant. You don't have to mix coolant with water. Then the last question is, can I drive with a low coolant? You can't drive with a low coolant. When you drive with a low coolant, your car will overheat and you spoil your engine. Thanks for watching my video. If you have any questions, you can text me or you can call me. My name is Ernest, the instructor from BB Driving Consult, which is located in Takoradi. We are the leading driving school in Sekeni Takoradi. So if you want to learn how to drive, I encourage best of the best driving consult to you. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye bye.